All right. On today's show, I welcome on a very special guest. She's a four-time Coach of the Year. She has over 400 wins and heading into her 30th year as the women's head basketball coach of Bryant, Coach Mary Burke. Coach, how are you today?
Oh, great, Jeff. Greatly appreciate being on the call.
Oh, great. I'm glad to have you here on the show. I really appreciate your time. How are you doing during these COVID times right now?
Well, it's been a little different, to be honest with you. When you've done this for 30 years, there's a certain way you like to start the year off. And needless to say, things are a little different this year. So I'm trying to learn to go moment to moment. I'm usually a planner, so, it's a little different, needless to say.
Yeah, it's a little tough. It throws a wrench into things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, just a hair, right?
Exactly. I've never been tested so much in my life.
Oh, it's the worst. I got tested, and it was like the worst feeling I ever had. Like, oh, just like that feeling up your nose and everything like that.
Yeah, one of the great things about Bryant is I will say they're doing an amazing job with the testing to make sure that everyone is healthy and the campus is healthy. But, it's just the process and, needing to go in and, do the Q-tip swab and all those things that you're really not accustomed to. But in the long run, I think obviously it's a great situation for the campus and we're doing really well with it.
That's great. Yeah, it's important to make sure everyone's clear and good to go.
Exactly.
All right. But Coach, before we get into your Bryant career, I want to ask, when did you start playing basketball and how did you know this was your sport?
So obviously I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I started, I was probably always a little bit athletic from the very beginning, in my younger years. And probably in the mid 70s, I really started to kind of focus in on basketball and I also played volleyball. So, I think in the early years, did the little CYO stuff, in Rhode Island and started to kind of establish myself as, a quality player. You got to remember back then there weren't a lot of opportunities for women. We were definitely second fiddle to everything and all the opportunities that men had. But as I started to get into high school, I was starting to ride, the gender equity and Title IX opportunities and started to establish myself as, I guess I'd say a very good athlete and a very good basketball player. And some would say I was better in volleyball than basketball, but the reality was there wasn't enough money in volleyball.
Oh, interesting. That's really interesting. So you chose basketball and you get recruited to go to PC. What was your time like playing at PC?
Well, it was the best, to be honest with you. As a Rhode Islander, every Rhode Islander's goal, if you are a very good high school basketball player, is to play at Providence. So the mere fact that I had the opportunity and the relationships that I had there, the friends, the basketball experience, obviously the education, it really goes without saying and how fortunate I was and how much I love it. I loved it. And honestly, through the recruiting process, oftentimes when people realize that I played at Providence, the first thing they'd ask is, would I ever do anything different? Go anywhere else? And that answer is always no. I loved it from beginning to end. And I felt I was extremely fortunate to have the opportunities at Providence and, for all that it did for my life, not only just educationally, but the basketball experience and the friends that I met.
That's awesome. And it must be nice, like you said, being a Rhode Islander, you get to play at PC as well as it must have been nice for your family and friends to come watch you play at games as well too, right?
Yeah, I think, oftentimes in the recruiting process too, I talk to players, they're always concerned about going to a school too close to home. And, Providence, I grew up in Warwick. So, Providence was 20 minutes, up the road in the city of Providence. So, it didn't matter. I could have lived across the street. My parents weren't coming on campus and it was still that whole campus feel. So, there are advantages to living in the state in the sense that I had the opportunity to go home, on holidays and things like that. So, it was just, like I said, a great opportunity.
That's awesome. And when you were there as well, you also made the NCAA tournament. What was that like?
Well, I mean, it's, the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I think every year you go into it as a player and saying, not only do you want to try to have a successful individual career and try to win conference championships, but, advance and get to the opportunity to get to the NCAA tournament. So, it was awesome. And we hosted that first round at Providence. So it was amazing atmosphere. And, again, just another portion of that great experience that I had.
Nice. That's awesome. And then what was the decision to get into coaching and how did you get started at Bryant?
So, it's a little strange on how it happened. I graduated from Providence, and that night of my graduation, actually, the head coach here at Bryant called me. I didn't know him. He called me at home and said, "Hey, listen, I was wondering if you're interested in getting into coaching." At that time, I was still feeling out options. I had no real sound direction yet on where I was going to go upon my opportunities after Providence. So even though Bryant is in Rhode Island, I really had never come up and taken a look at the campus. And, the coach here was Ralph Tomaso, and, great guy, awesome personality. And, at that point, I was still trying to, again, figure out what my next direction was. So when I came up and met him, again, like I said, we had good chemistry, and I felt that it was an opportunity that I really couldn't pass up to, take a year, be an assistant, and see if, this was something that I'd be interested in. From there, that first year, from the moment I walked on the court, the players that were here, instantly responded to me, respected me, and it was just a great experience. I kind of look at it, and I don't mean to like get deep, but
It's fine.
I look at it like, it's meant to be, because obviously, being here for 30 years, the profession, if you're at one place for 5 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So, the fact that I've been able to, be an assistant here, have the opportunity then to become the head coach, and then be a head coach for 30 years, it just, for me, it kind of led me to believe this was my destiny. This is what I was called to do. I'm not Gino. I'm not Pat. I'm not winning national championships. But I'd like to think equally that I'm touching as many lives with education and a basketball experience. So, that's kind of the overview, how it got started. And when I was an assistant, we had success. We had won some conference championships and gone to the NCAA tournament. It was really a very positive experience as an assistant, which springboarded me into having that confidence to being that head coach. And as you know, we played in the Northeast 10. It was a very, very competitive league. And I had to learn and grow as a person and as a coach as well.
And when you start coaching, like, how do you create a culture and like a program, like, you start creating this program and culture?
Yeah, I think, I just try to stay true to my personality and who I was. And I think oftentimes, there's a lot of outside noise and, do this, act like Gino, be Pat, be some of these high profile people. And I've always been, very true to my personality and what allowed me to be successful. And needless to say, I'm not going to say I didn't make, and I don't make many mistakes, but I'd like to think I've learned and grown from them. And I just, try to be who I was and what I wanted for my players for the experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a great culture to have and a great thing to bring to your program, because it gives you something to pass on to your players. And I'm sure they're going to pass that on wherever they go on into life and create that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I can give you a little bit of a learning experience, what happened early on. So, my first recruiting class, I had a 2,000 point scorer and 3 1,000 point scorers.
Wow.
And we had very successful years in there 4. And so in my early naive years, I thought it was all about me.
Yeah.
It was me. And you learn very quickly that it's players. So they graduated and, we stumbled a little bit and I probably made a few mistakes. And then I realized that, you got to always have, the right players with your mentality, with your drive, with your personality, with, so that was one of my, more, early life lessons that, Mary, for as much as, you think you're confident, need those players to actually execute those things that are important to you.
Yeah, definitely. That's really important. And I want to know, in 2003, 2004, you guys finished in the top 25 polls and you make the NCAA tournament regional final. What was that year like?
Yeah. So that year, I had a player from Rhode Island on that team, and we had I call them grinders. That means we weren't super talented jumping out of the gym, but they were players who just, played hard. They played passionate. They had pride in what was on their chest and what they represented. We had a big class that year. So there was I think 5 seniors. So they were locked in. They had made an impact in the program from their freshman year. So, they knew that this was their swan song. And we kind of stumbled, to be honest with you, in the playoffs and lost in the first round.
Oh, wow.
But in Division II, when you played a high-profile level, as I said, the Northeast 10 was one of the top 3 conferences in the country. You get at-large bids.
Yeah.
So we got that at-large. And to be honest with you, we played Bentley in the first round. So the story there is my record going into that game for Bentley was like 0-25.
Oh, really?
Right?
Jeez.
They, Barbara Stevens, very good coach. The program was awesome, and I just never got over the top.
Yeah.
And so we go into the game, and before the game, the reporters came up to me and said, listen, we're going to talk to you before the game, and then we're going to talk to Coach Stevens after. So you knew what they were thinking, right?
Oh,
so,
man. Yeah.
So nothing better than to use that in the locker room prior to the game. And I said, ladies, listen, there'd be nothing greater than we win, and Coach Stevens has to talk about the game after. So needless to say, that was the first round. We won. And when we pulled up to the hotel after, Bentley's bus was in front of us. And I looked into the hotel, and they were checking out. And I knew that we put them there. So that was probably one of my greatest moments, not to get dramatic, but in coaching and getting over the top on a team we hadn't beaten, done it with kids who, were passionate and prideful and, deserved this moment at the end of their career. We then the next day played Stonehill. We beat them. Wow. And then we went head to head with Merrimack and unfortunately lost, and Merrimack went on to the Elite Eight. But it was a great year. There was a ton of character of kids there who were, very similar to me in the mentality and the level of toughness and the passion. So that was the story of that year and how we got there. And it was great because our men were equally as successful. So Dan Gavitt was our athletic director.
Yep.
So he would come and watch us win. The next day he'd watch the men. It was like he was going like back and forth. It was like an AD dream.
Yeah, exactly.
To have both teams going all the way up. So it was awesome. It was a great experience. And, I strive to, continue to have these players have that moment.
That's awesome. That must be that has to be so good to have that success. And that must have been like a fun ride to even just get into that Sweet 16 anyways. Just like that has to be, a lot of people don't have those moments, Exactly.
And, that was further into my career. So, you have to kind of stay with it. But, it was a great moment. And, I can't say enough about, the players, and because we did hiccup in the conference tournament and lost. So we could have folded it up and been like, we're done.
Yeah.
Instead, they were like, we got one more shot and we're going to have to go through a team that we hadn't beaten, but let's go do this.
That's awesome. That just shows your coaching style and the players that you had, just the adversity that they overcame and just kept playing, wanted to play and wanted to keep playing as long as they could.
Yeah. You got to have that passion when, you make that mistake and you have one more opportunity, you got to maximize it.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I thought, I was just, so prideful for them for what they did.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. And now what was the switch to Division I? What's that like, making that switch and going up another level?
So you have to remember that the whole athletic department at that time was doing very well. Every team was winning either conference championships or advancing to the NCAA tournament in at-large bids. And, President Makeley, he's a competitor within himself. He wanted to really, if we're going to play for prizes, we might as well go play for the best.
Yeah.
And so we really had the coaching, the players, we had the mentality, and we also, in those early years, still had the resources available so that we could jump and manage.
Yeah.
So, through the transition, that means we were playing and we didn't have the eligibility to play in any playoffs or go to the NCAA tournament.
Really? Okay.
So you have to remember, this is another thing about the players I had at that time. And it's so different now because loyalty now is a lost art. There's zero loyalty now. It's just like, I'm not going to play. I'm going to go somewhere else. Everyone jumps.
Transfer portal, right? Crazy, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, back then, when the decision was made to go Division I, you have to remember that the players that were in the program were never again going to compete for a championship.
Yeah.
So you'd understand that if one of them came to me or multiple came to me and said, hey, listen, coach, we're going to go somewhere else. I only have 4 years at this. I want to have a shot at, trying to win a championship.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you that not one player ever came to me and said that. It was
Wow.
all about, okay, let's go do this at the next level. Let's prove we are somebody. Let's prove that I should have been recruited for Division One. I wasn't, and I can go make a stand.
Wow.
And with that mentality, we won our first game in Division One against UNH at UNH. I had a first team all conference player in the NEC in transition in the first year, and we finished sixth. Now keep that in perspective when I say out of the 29 games we played, 21 were on the road.
Wow. That's crazy.
Is that unbelievable or what?
That's wow. That's amazing. That just tells you the type of players that you have and like the type of program and the culture that you're creating there. That's amazing. Makes me want to just suit up and play for you.
Yeah. So, like I said, like that was like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then the players just realized, like, we can do this. And if we didn't win some of those games, like ADs came up to me after and was like, you guys are good,
Yeah.
And to know Ron Makeley, he was never going to put us in that position if he didn't know we could be successful.
Yeah, exactly. That's just amazing. And I'm so happy to hear that. I think, and Brian is very lucky to have you for over the last 30 years. And hopefully
I don't know about that. There'd probably be some
many
different
more.
opinions.
Yeah, well, hopefully many more, right?
Yeah. I hope so.
Just a few more questions, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. I don't mean I'm taking a lot of your time.
No, you're great. This is awesome. This is so much fun. All right, so you got your 300th and your 400th win against LIU's schools. Is there something about LIU that you just want to keep getting those century marks over them?
Yeah, right. If we could just keep playing them,
yeah.
I'd feel really good.
Yeah.
So, again, when, you get those milestones, like I am not in any size, shape, or form an ego person. All I want to do is have the right players go out there, try to win games, and go home.
Yeah.
So, all those milestones, they are all a tribute to like all these players and these moments I've talked about, the staffs that I have had and have that buy into the mentality of what I expect for the program, the level of, passion and mentality. So there are many things that contribute to those milestones. It has never, ever been about me. And I sometimes ride the wave of, where they put me and the success that we're allowed to have. So again, I just think I've been fortunate and very lucky for it.
Spoken like a true coach, and that's it's very, very true. It is. It's all about the players coming from I used to be a coach. From a player's perspective, I mean, a coach's perspective, it's definitely all about the players, and they help you success. You just put the game plan in.
Exactly. I'm not putting even though I'd still like to be able to make a few shots.
Yeah. Same here. There's always times where I'm like, can I just get in this game?
Yeah. Can I just make that layup? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So, Coach, what's your outlook on this upcoming season?
So we graduated Sydney Holloway, who for her career, she was an all-rookie player of freshman year, and then has been one of the top 5 players, her career in the NEC. So she graduated leading scorer, rebounder, one of the top 5 scorers in the league, and 1 or 2 in the rebounding as well. I mean, that's a big hole. To think that that's going to be replaced by any one person is not a reality, because we will be young this year. We graduated her and a couple other players who had played significant minutes.
Oh, wow.
I think overall we'll be considered a young team. And that's fine. I've been there and done that before, and I think it's all a mentality. So again, we're going to need to find, consistency in scoring. We've had issues with that the last couple years. We haven't been a great outside shooting team. And then it was really hard for Sid to try and score all the time because everyone just sucked into the paint. Yes. So having more balance, being able to make shots, jump shots, threes, and then, having the ability to score inside. To know a little bit about the program, too, is to know that we have always been very good in the post, right? So we've always had really good post players. Sydney is one of many that have come through the system. Brooke Bajelko had a very good junior year. We need her to have a great year. And we need to get back to running, because we do try to transition, but we haven't been as athletic and as dynamic and as fast as I think we need to be.
Yeah.
So to offset being young and graduating a significant player that's been in the program her 4 years, we're going to need to be able to do some things we haven't in the past. So having balance offensively, being able to run and attack and get easy baskets better than we've done the last 4 years. And then obviously, I think we'll be a little bit more athletic and more focused on defensively as well, like getting in and taking away some easy opportunities for opponents.
Nice. Yeah.
That's a quick overview.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. It sounds like it's going to be a
Well,
different style play, but it definitely sounds like it will work out for sure.
don't talk to me in December.
All right, I definitely will. I'll just wave in the stands for you.
Yeah. There's that crazy coach.
Yeah. All right. Last question. We'll wrap it up here. What's your favorite thing to do outside of basketball?
Oh gosh. So like if you talk to people that I know, I'm a big conditioner. So with this whole pandemic, um, I was taking spin classes prior to. I love spin.
Yeah.
And so it's not a Peloton, but I have a spin bike now, and I use the Peloton app. So like I said, I'm a big conditioner. I feel like if I'm going to preach conditioning and be in shape, you got to do it as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things I love is working out. And I also love like doing flowers and gardening, my backyard. So I'm big into that as well.
Green thumb.
So those are a couple things off the beaten path we don't like to talk about.
That's perfectly fine. But those are nice things to do. Get rid of the stress. I feel like gardening's like a peaceful thing to do.
And plus, like last but not least, very important in my life, I have 2 dogs and a cat. So they're my kids, and they mean a lot to me.
Oh, nice. What kind of dogs and cat?
I have a large golden doodle, a Pomeranian, and the cat is just like a normal, no certain breed.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I think dogs are important. I have 2 dogs myself.
Oh, okay.
Always, they keep me occupied. They're 2 little puppies. They still drive me nuts.
Oh yeah, great, awesome. What kind?
I have 2 beagles.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, they're sisters. They're always keeping me on my heels constantly. Can't turn my back.
I always joke with people, I come home after a game, I open the door, and like the big doodle's got the tail up. Like, did you win or lose? And it's like, tail up, we won, tail down. But regardless of what, they still think I make all the right calls, and they think I'm the best, so that's all that matters.
That's right. That's all that matters is right in the end of everything. Well, Coach, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do this again sometime. Yeah,
thanks so much. Like I said, I don't do a lot of these, so you made me feel really comfortable. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime, Coach. Hopefully I can catch a game too this year, and I'll try not to talk to you in December, but maybe I can talk to you in January.
All right, great. Talk to you then.
All right, Coach. Have a good one.
See ya. All right.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.